What up, friends, YouTubers, Instagram? No. Yeah, Instagram over here. And thanks for listening on iTunes and Stitcher and stuff like that. It's really cool. Just a quick shout out to you guys. We're going to be doing more podcast stuff. Mark's just like on top of organizing to the next level the amount of work that we do. So it's going to be really fun. Barboza, Kevin Lee. This is a cool. That's a cool one. It probably came out yesterday, depending on when you watch this. We did some analysis of Cub versus Frankie Edgar. That's my main event. And Kevin, I'm sorry, my friend, like Kevin is a good friend. And Edson Barboza, his whole team, we're close with them. What up? But Cub versus Frankie, that's my fight. That's for me. But this one's pretty killer. So there's a lot of things to unpack here. Thank you. Kevin is a very, very, very good athletic physical wrestler. Barboza trains with Frankie Edgar. Barboza just dealt with the Khabib machine not long ago. Kevin is coming off the Tony fight, but also Kevin lost his coach, Robert Follis, who I spent time with the two of them together, and Follis was there again cornering Kevin's brother Keith, who I've commentated. I commentated, I think, his first 3 pro fights. Keith's fantastic. Keith Lee, shout out to Keith Lee. If you get a chance to watch him fight, do it. He'll be in the UFC, I'm sure, in a couple of years. Yeah, I'm sure he's 5-0 already. Oh, one. He lost his first fight. Yeah, it was close, but I thought, yeah. I thought Keith did lose that fight, but it was a fucking brilliant high-level fight. And Keith has grown a ton since then and could have won it that night and could win it now. Has the ability for sure. But I saw them together, and Follis, who was just this incredible, sweet, smart, so smart and so brilliant and so interesting. But he was family to them. So that's real, That's real. We talk about that because it's true. It's real. And Kevin will carry these things. This is what it is to be an elite performer of something. This is what it is. So for my first thought is, I feel for him. He's my friend, and I really, we really like the guy. And this is, I loved Follis too. But on the other hand, and that is true in reality with his family and his friends, and these emotions are real. But as a high-level performer, as this is what he does to take care of his family, and this is what he does to build a future and to cement his identity as to who he is and going to be at 30 and 40 and 50, this is part of it. This is a real part of it. And that applies to all of us too. People in our lives will die, and we will get sick, and things will happen to you that are not easy. They're hard. They're painful. They're emotional labor. You must get over it. You must grow from it. You must become more than you were through it. And that's what's on Kevin here. And I think he's gonna. I think he will. We are all, and I see it in fighting a lot because of how much I love fighting, and I see it as a lens through which you can look at anything. But we're all just trying to grow, right? You're trying to get better. I think we thought only a few generations ago that as you aged past a certain point, you would start to regress, but that's not true. Neuroplasticity, you continue to learn things in your 40s and 50s and 60s, and you want to get physically stronger. You want to become a better person. You want to learn to interact with the world in better ways. If you have children, you want to do all these things so you can be a better. This is what we're doing. This is what we're doing here. Fighting lets us see that. Because we look and we say, Cub fighting Frankie, where did Cub get better? What did he do? How did he learn from his setback or his failure or the loss to sculpt him into more? And we're doing that, all of us. That's what our purpose here is. That's what we're fucking supposed to be doing. We're not, it's cool that you guys are, watching a video or listening to a podcast. And hopefully, that's why I give a fuck and hopefully give you something of value. Because I don't want to waste your time. We're not supposed to be just sitting here wasting time. We're supposed to be learning things. We're supposed to be growing, becoming more than we were. And that is the job of the fighter. And that is part of the job of us as watching them, is to learn that from them. And so that's something Kevin is going through right now. That's real. That's real. That's as real as fucking blocking a leg kick. In fact, that's a whole lot more real. You know? Dealing with the loss of your mentor, older brother type mentor friend, that's more real than figuring out how to stop this guy's leg kicks.
Because the little things like the walk that you make.
For sure.
The prep right before you get out.
For sure. This guy, yeah. You know, I'm very dear friends with Mark Hominick and Sam Stout and Chris Hordesky, and I was good friends with their coach, Sean Tompkins. And Sean spent a lot of time at Extreme Couture as well, and I'm sure there's a lot of people there to help Kevin. And I know we're going to talk more about the other aspects of the fight as well, but this matters. This matters. But it wasn't Sean. When Sean would call out 2-3 low kick, Sam fucking threw a 2-3 low kick, and why did he throw it? It was the right combination. The reason it was the right combination was because he threw it with commitment and it made it correct. And the reason he threw it with commitment was because it was correct because Sean fucking said so. Do you know what I mean? When he heard this man's voice, he didn't question it or wonder or hesitate or hedge his bet or think maybe I should throw something else. He fucking knew that guy knew the right thing. And then when he threw it with the full commitment, it became the right thing. Do you know what I'm saying? Do you know what I'm saying? And the mind. So do you remember Mark Hominick, who is one of my very favorite fighters? I admire him as a man and as a fighter, and he's a good dude and husband and father and leader, all that shit. And he's funny, and he likes Motley Crue. When Mark lost to, was it the Korean Zombie? It was. No, he got knocked out the fight after Jose Aldo. He got knocked out quite quickly. And what happened was he threw this left hook and he left it hanging there. And I'm pretty sure it was the Korean Zombie. And he slid back, made Mark miss, and then popped in. Was it? Yep. Popped in with the straight 2 down the pipe. And Mark was standing there, I'm sorry if you can't hear me, with it kind of floating out, looking at it. And when we talked to him after, 2 things happened that night. One, we went to talk to him after, and he says, well, I fought out of character, okay? And that's 100% true. Never fought like that ever before or since. Connected to fighting out of character is the character that you are when you fight is a result of preparation. What you are is a reflection of what you've done, what you've learned, what you've studied, what you believe. That's what you are. Not just when you fight. Like when I'm sitting here doing this or wherever you are. You are all those things. And some of those things came from the connection to his coach, Sean whispering. And Sean fucking knew these guys so well. He was so special, Sean Tompkins. He really was, like Follis. Sean knew these guys so well. And he knew if Mark was... I mean, fucking Mark is a machine. He really is. I've known him now for... I knew him before my first fight in 2008, so I've known him now 10, 11, 12 years, which is cool. Oh, no, way before that. 2007, I shot a TV show, and he and Sam were good enough to be on it. But he's a machine. Now I see him make a joke or a sense of humor, but you didn't see it for a long time. But he is a machine. But part of that would be the words that were said into your ear just at the right time. You know, and those are the things. Mark pointed this out, and you really took me down a great path here, buddy. Those are the things that is you. Those are you. That is what you are. Is what you see and what you think and what you believe. That is reflected in how you fight or how you fuck. Or, you know, or how you type, or how you drive your car. Like, that's what you are. And so the different words, or Mark at the time going, you know, no, I'm good. No, don't worry, but I'm good. That wasn't, so he wasn't him on that night. And now his career is so amazing. And that night, I hope, I'm pretty sure, is he sees it as this great lesson, this great moment, this great point of learning when he teaches other fighters, or when he's become every bit as good a coach as Sean ever was, when he teaches his young guys, that moment was of huge importance, of huge value to him. But it's real. And so Kevin needs to know that that's real, that those things are real. There's one other thing that happened that night. My friend, so Mark was having a tough time, but comes out, looks good, doesn't make any excuses, and comes out to speak. And my friend Mike Straka, Mike, what up? Says, and he asks him a question about Sean. And Mark starts to well up because he's fucking human, which is nice to see that he's human every now and again. He starts to well up and he starts to cry, right? Because we're people, right? This is his best friend, also brother, also father. He's not really his brother or his father, obviously. Maybe that wasn't obvious, which is why I said it. But best man in his wedding, everything. This was and it wasn't there on this night, and now he's asked about it on the toughest night, so he starts to fucking cry. And so everybody's standing there filming. Nobody knows what to do, and I'm not criticizing, but part of the job of the journalist, depending on how you see your job, I am an analyst. Sometimes I have to do the journalist job. It's not really my thing, and I don't like it. But I'm glad to be involved and contribute how I can. But sometimes the journalist job is, holy fuck, they're crying. We got to get this, right? And I'm not having that. So I literally said, so I'm standing there and I'm like, I got to fucking help this guy out. This guy's my friend. And I'm like, in a sort of authoritative voice. By the way, this is a Kevin Lee versus Edson Barboza fight preview. So I said to him, in a very loud voice, so Mark, you are one of the mentally strongest men in the fight game. How? Because I didn't plan this, or I didn't think about it. Basically, in that moment, I'm like, okay, if I just fucking remind this guy how mentally tough he is, it'll write him out. And I'm like, you're one of the mentally strongest guys in the game. What's it gonna? And I just turned him around on the spot. And I think depending on who my employer, I was working for Fight Network at the time, but depending on other employers, might have been like, don't ever put an end to an emotion. But I wasn't having that. Anyways, Kevin Lee. So anyways, much love, Mark. Kevin Lee versus one other thing. Sorry. Since I'm fucking Uncle Black telling stories now. Chris Hordesky was out with his buddies, and after Sean passed, and so Access TV fights. What are they called now? Access TV. What were they called back then? It was Mark Cuban owned the company. Yeah. Yeah, HD Fights, right? So I think they were called HD Fights at the time. And Ron Kruk, who I fucking love, Ron Kruk calls me, and he's like, look, we're doing and this is only like 4 or 5 days after Sean has passed. And he says, we're doing a thing on Sean, and we've got all these fighters, and we need these guys to talk. And I'm like, dude, I'm not going to... And I love Ron, and Ron was not out of line. He was more than doing his job appropriately, like he always does. He's a true pro. But I'm also like, dude, I can't fucking pester these guys to interview them. They lost like deep family member. So I kind of like just throw it out there to Mark or Sam, and then they but I don't bug them. And then I said, and I again, I'm probably not doing my job in the way that a lot of people see the media job. Kevin Lee versus Edson Barboza fight preview, by the way, in case you just joined us. So I said, I don't know, man. They're not responding, and I didn't really push it that hard, and maybe I should have. But so then Boss, who of course Boss and Sean were like, and those guys love Boss. Boss reaches out and says, look, and he's telling the truth. He's like, being remembered as a good man and a good coach and doing what he loved is important to Sean, and his legacy and the way people see him, that's always been important to him, and he'd really want you guys to be in it. So Boss does that. So I'm like, so then as a compliment, Ron calls, he says, they said they would do it if it's you. I'm like, oh, that's a nice compliment, but also this is fucking hard, right? This guy's they're Sean's brother, or Sam's brother-in-law, Mark's best man. Like, so I say, I'll do it, right? So we drive out to London, and Chris shows up, and he's been out with his closest friends, and they're pretty drunk, right? As you would be. And he comes in to talk, and he's kind of holding it together, and then he talks, and then he starts breaking down, right? Because again, this is human emotion. Like, Kevin has been through this, and maybe partly why I'm telling this story is in hopes that Kevin sees it too. Maybe that's partly why, because I feel compelled to tell these stories right now. But I'm hoping maybe Kevin sees them, so that if he, depending on what he's already heard from stories of people that have been through this, it's fucking normal to be emotional about these things. This is your life. These are people. These are your family. These are the people you love, right? So Chris starts to break down, and the camera's on him, and he breaks down, and I kind of just pause. I don't really know what to do. And the cameraman just keeps shooting, and Chris's oldest buddy just comes in and pulls him, and he says, "Come on, man." He's crying, and I'm like, I didn't know what to do. And then I walked over to him, and I said, "No matter what, I'll give you my word, that's not going in any fucking tape. Like, that's not going in any video. Like, Chris just fully breaking down, like he's lost, like people they feel that way when they lose the closest people to them. This is how we would all feel, right? And so I make that promise. That is not going in. And then as we're driving back, I'm like, holy fuck, do I have the power to actually not get that in there? Because I just promised my friend that I would take care of him, but I don't know who the fucking editor is. I've never worked with, like, I've done 1 or 2 jobs ever for Access TV. I trust Ron. I trust Boss. But I don't know who the fucking director is. I don't know who the producer is. I don't know who's editing this. So, fuck, I was just like filled with anxiety for the next 3 days until it ran, unfortunately. And I asked Ron to keep an eye on that, and he said he would do his best. And they never did it. They showed those guys with The Class, that television network. Simon was the guy's name who used to run Access TV fights or HDNet fights. HDNet, that's what they were. And he was classy. And they put together a beautiful piece about Sean Tompkins, and those guys were in it, and it all worked out fine. But last thought on this, and I will go back to the fights and leg kicks and stuff. Kevin, I'm going to send you a text, never mind, but I'll just to not be all Mr. secretive about it. I'm going to send Kevin a text. Kevin, I'm going to send you a text offering to put you in touch with Sam and Mark if you haven't already, because they went through it. So that's that. But anyway, so leg kicks. People, when I bring up this fight, or there are differing levels of communication about this art form. There's the conversations that you have. Let me say, I get to have different levels of conversation about this art form. Talk to Mark Henry, and he'll give me insight into the how and why of the learning of how and when they did certain things. I'll talk to Dr. Stu McGill, who I just talked to the other day, who I'm working on something about Fedor with. He's a genius of neuroscience, and we get to talk about that. And then the next level down is, some level of MMA analysis, which is, instead of the conversations that are happening between coach and fighter, there's this other language that gets used, who's the better striker, and the typical language that we use when we're talking. We'll do that in some form of television. The next level down is Twitter, where just people who, like us, who love fighting, or Instagram or wherever, who love this particular art form, or people that love football or tennis or whatever, they get together and they have conversations. And lower and lower and lower you go, there's less and less knowledge. But at the Twitter level is where certain things that feel obvious are discussed. Why are they discussed? Because they feel obvious. We should, of course, fucking talk about his leg kicks. However, when we'll talk about Edson Barboza's leg kicks, it never crosses our mind that if Just Bleed 420 knows, oh man, you got to watch out for Barboza's leg kicks, and he's thinking about it. What the fuck do you think Kevin Lee is doing? Like if Just Bleed 420, which actually, I don't know if that exists, but it's a great name. If he knows, oh man, you got to deal with those leg kicks, he's going to chew up his legs. What the fuck do you think Kevin is doing? Right? Just sitting around going, well, I hope he doesn't kick my legs. No, he's fucking working on it, right? Now, if you have busy lives, you're not going to do this, but if you were to go back and look at what we discussed with Gaethje versus Dustin Poirier when I was at Stratford last week, people were asking the very same conversation about Gaethje's leg kicks. He's going to smash up Dustin Poirier. And he did. He fucking smashed him up. But my answer was there are three main choices that we take when somebody's going to kick our legs. One, and the result is different on all. And, you know, one does this better, but not this as well. And so one is get the fuck out of the way, right? And that one is no fail, except for in getting so far out of the way that you can get out of the way of a good leg kicker, you are going to just bleed 420 as Nate Diaz's second account, it says. I don't think that's true, but that's a good one. If you get far enough out of the way that you can get away from that guy's leg kicks, you are far enough out of the way that there's not a lot you can do to him now, right? So we protected ourselves. We did not take any damage, but we have not put ourselves in a situation where we can do something to him. Often, especially if you watch Muay Thai, but in MMA, there's plenty, you try to kick me, I move, and I kick your leg. Slightly better. In fact, I've checked off all the things I might hope to achieve. I'm safe and unhurt, and I hit you. This is good, right? The next is check. Now, we hear about checking kicks all the time. Mark's brother is a high-level Tony. What up, Tony? I mean to come to your gym and check it out. What's Tony's gym called? Diamond Muay Thai in the East End of Toronto. You want to learn some real Muay Thai, man. Tony knows what's up. Tony was a very generous sparring partner for me for years when I was fighting. Our coach, Billy Martin, would bring him in, and he would give me just the right amount. He was a far higher level than I, and he would give me just the right amount. It was great. So shout out to Tony, Mark's brother, Tony Manaharan. You watch guys like this fight, and you see the kick checked, right? Somebody will throw a kick, I'll check it. And when we're watching fights often, we'll hear, whether we hear an analyst say this, or we'll say it, or somebody yelling it on Twitter in capitals, just bleed 420, they'll say, you gotta check those fucking kicks. One thing that maybe we don't all realize is checking kicks fucking hurts like insanely. But the issue is, do you want him to hurt me or both of us get hurt? Because that's really the difference. Now, ideally, it hurts him more than me. He has now kicked a bone. But you know what I've done? Got kicked in the bone. Do you know? Like, it's bad. It hurts. It's terrible. But it is better than getting the muscles so beaten up that they can't function. So the check, also an option. The best option of all is something that results in you hurting him. Now, and people will often say, why do people take kicks? Why don't they check them? One, to check them, I have to put myself into a stance that in Muay Thai, it's much easier where without the aspects of wrestling and different aspects, I can be in that situation. But Frankie Edgar wants to be heavy over that front leg. You know, Kevin Lee wants to be heavy over that front leg. The Diaz brothers used to be very heavy over that front leg. Used to be, you got to kick the Diaz brothers' legs. Well, they did for a while. It doesn't work as well now, because they adapted. But if you kick me in the leg, this thing is dying. I'm sorry, my Instagram friends. I have to go. My phone is dead. But much love. Thank you for hanging. If I take this leg kick, and I take it, I know where the fuck you are. You're on the end of your leg. From your foot, through your shin, to your knee, to your thigh, to you, to your torso, to your fucking chin. And you look at the one key shot that Poirier drilled him with, the leg is touching him when he did it, right? You remember that? The key one, the key left that he drills Justin with. He has eaten the kick to use it as a position finder. I know where Justin is. He's on the other end of this fucking brutal kick that I have just eaten, right?
Rufus just made a big post on Instagram about it. He calls it arguing. He's like, always arguing.
Yeah.
So if you get hit and you don't do anything, that's almost
right. Yeah, right. Yeah. So Duke called it arguing. So I call it debating. But arguing is probably even better. It's a much the animated way in which we argue maybe is much more accurate. Much thanks, Duke. That's excellent. But yeah, like you don't just want somebody lecturing you. You want somebody just telling, I'm sure your wife or girlfriend or husband has done this to you at times, or mother when you were a kid. You just take it. That's like just getting kicked. But if you take it and answer, or take it and re-kick, or take it and punch, or block and punch, or slide out of the way and kick, this is how you deal with leg kicks. Or take them down, catch and take down. Although there was another element to that. Used to be don't kick a wrestler because he'll catch you and take you down. Now he catches you, you extract, and you make him pay too. So that the levels keep raising. What were you going to say?
So even with the exchange, it does something to the opponent's psyche.
Yeah, true. True. Yes. The argument, as Duke called it and as Mark's passing on, by being willing to argue, like if I just start lecturing you and you shell up, I'll just keep doing it. But if you answer back, oh, holy fuck, this guy's serious. That element is carried over within the fight itself. If I also, what is awesome when you're fighting? If I hit you, that's wicked. I throw a punch and I hit you, that's killer. What if I throw a punch or a kick and I get hit? All of a sudden, I'm not so motivated to do that anymore, right? Not in the same way as when I was just all day long just pasting you with my fucking foot and shin. So that is the element at play. Kevin's aware of that, and if we're having this conversation, he is. And there's never a good aspect to the fact that you have changed coaches because of a death or a loss or an illness. That's never going to be good. Although you will look for what the bright side of a new situation is. And the bright side is Kevin's getting exposed to all kinds of new shit, right? There was nobody smarter than Follis. There was nobody who understood the whole game. And that's the part that the high levels of conversations, I was talking about the different levels of conversation you have. When you have them, a debate, a discussion, a push and pull with people of this level, all of the conversation is the areas around boxing and wrestling, leg kicks and stuff. It's all the soft tissue around all of these things. It's all that fluid area in between the game. And I had some wonderful conversations with Follis in Montreal. I took Kevin to train with George St. Pierre. So I brought Kevin in, introduced him to George. They trained. Follis was training Keith, and I had the good fortune to get to watch him and ask questions. And this is what I love. Like anytime I get a chance to get invited to be a part of the conversation, and I'm analyzing all day, every day in different ways. But now I get, which is also why I appreciate a Mark Henry or a Bang Ludwig, or these guys who will give me insight. I can reach out to them and get a little deeper thing. But all their conversations are the areas around it. So this is what Kevin's doing. And this is the answer. Someone will one day have an answer for Khabib. One day. Maybe. I don't know. In that situation. And someone will have answers for leg kicks. Dustin showed it. These are not permanent challenges. They have answers. Once upon a time, when a guy threw a straight left hand from southpaw, you just fucked. I'm fucked. I don't know what's happening. And you figured it out. And the game figured it out. And then the coaches figured it out. And then the knowledge passed on. There are answers to leg kicks in mixed martial arts context, even brilliant ones. Coincidentally, and I don't know how I'm supposed to answer questions. I love the fact that people reach out to me and have conversations with me about these things. I fucking love it. But there are times where sometimes like, well, how do you expect me to answer this? Where somebody sent me a DM and they said, why, like, what did Khabib do wrong that the wrist ride wasn't working the same way against Raging Al? It's like, first of all, do you understand how it works to begin with? Like, we have to start... I don't know how I can quite answer that unless we go in and first define what it is, how it works, why it's there, what the position is, what the challenge is, how hard it is to do, and then figure out what it was, and then find the adaptations. That's like saying, when you do an aortal transplant, how do you do it? It's fucking complex shit. And which is also, the more you look at it, the more that there are deep, convoluted twisting, turning, beautiful answers to all of these things. And it is never as simple as, don't kick a wrestler, you'll get taken down. Or, man, if you are heavy on the front foot, your leg is going to get chewed up. These are not truths. These are not truths. Sometimes they're temporary truths, but then the new truth happens as somebody finds the answer to that. Once upon a time, you couldn't kick a wrestler. Now people fucking kick wrestlers all the time because it changes. The understanding changes. The response changes. The skills change. Fuck, you should see 8-year-olds doing MMA now. Or dancing or anything. You see 8-year-olds doing hip-hop dancing, they're like, what the fuck is that possible? They're doing shit that 5 years earlier like adults couldn't do. That's how so how do you do an aortal transplant? I don't have a fucking clue. I know. Although, the answer, according to the way that we talk about sports and things often, would be, you got to cut open the chest, and you got to get in there and you got to sever the aorta and take it out, take another aorta and put it in and sew it up and sew the chest up. That's how we talk about fighting. It is. And on television, at least. I know people have all different ways that they examine it, but that's how we talk about it on television. Be the equivalent of, he's going to take the ball and he's going to pass it back to the quarterback. Now the quarterback's going to stand. He's going to throw the ball. Great throw. Oh, it's a catch. Yeah, he caught it. Now he's running. Like, that's literally how we talk about these things. So it seems weird when we talk about them this way because people are so used to it being that way. But anyways.
But see, that's the thing, though. That's the way it was talked about, described like sports.
Yep.
Way back in the 80s. That's not the way they describe a basketball game today.
Yep.
That's the way they describe the early Valley Judo Japan.
Right.
That's the only problem.
We're still doing it, but it's the nature of the time. We're in a time of mimicking, right? Is the aorta transplantable? That's a good question. If it isn't now, it will be one day, right? Just like the leg kick, and one day. But it's the time, because fighting came 90s and 2000s, and we think things are fully formed. So we think the way that when you get a new commentator, they commentate exactly the way they heard Joe commentate. Joe's an innovator. You're not supposed to commentate like Joe. Joe does it as an individual. If you're trying to be like Joe, what you're trying to be is an individual, which is not copying, right? So, but this is just the nature of what it is and now we're all learning so many things so quickly. Information is everywhere, and it's not all correct, and sometimes it is correct, and then it changes. How do you handle a leg kick against Justin Gaethje? The answer to that is different than it was 3 weeks ago. It is different. After Nick Diaz fought Carlos Condit, my guy Carlos, and my guy Nick Diaz, fuck yeah. And people hate that fight. Love it. Love that fight. After that, people are like, we know how to beat Nick Diaz. Yeah, unless he changes, which he does and did and will. It changes. It all changes. How you beat. So when we pull these things out, it's like, I know how to beat Nate Diaz. You look at who Rafael dos Anjos, like who kicked up his legs. RDA, yeah. Oh, you do it like that? No, because he studied that and went, okay. So when now that guys think they can do that, I'ma do this. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and you're not that guy. Yeah, this is also an aspect of the discussion of game plans. Somebody's like, it's the wrong game plan. You can have the right game plan and still lose. Happens all the time. Like, if your game plan against Stephen Thompson is close the distance, smash him up, take him to the ground with a body lock and stay on top of him and beat him up, and you trained your fucking brains out to do that, and you couldn't do it, it was still the right game plan. You just couldn't do it. Right? So it's an ever-changing thing, but that's what we love about it. And that's why, if you saw yesterday, or depending on when you're watching this, if you happen to watch the Cub Swanson versus Frankie Edgar conversation, Mark and I are working on trying to I do 1-minute breakdowns on Instagram and YouTube, and then we do these long, meandering things, which I love. Thinking this has made me better at my job, and it's made me learn different aspects of life just by having the gift of having a situation where you can think out loud and allow it to explore. But we're trying to find a 3 to 5 minute version. We started yesterday, or we started the Frankie versus Cub doing that. But these are ever-changing things. I'd love to be able to say, the better striker will win that, or, Frankie's a better wrestler, therefore he will take Cub down, or Cub can knock him out from distance, or if you land enough leg kicks, you'll slow a guy down. But these things are not all true, and they're not all permanently true. This is a very malleable art form. But thank you for, particularly on podcasts. I have a feeling that these meandering things on podcasts are very, very interesting, especially for you weed smokers. But this is what I love to do. And please, any advice or any ideas or any recommendations on how you, because Mark and I are going to do 3 to 5 minute fight previews and then this long format. I want to find the way to be able to get a 3 to 5 minute concise thing without using all the same old, tired, stale language that has been a part of this game for the last 2 decades. And without being overly structured. And even as I think that out loud, I just got some ideas. And I think one of them literally is going to be a stopwatch. We're literally going to start taking a stopwatch and we're going to put it there, and it's 5 minutes, and there's a fight preview. And at the end, I say, and for the deeper analysis, go to the long form. But anyways, thanks for humoring me. And one great thing about this scenario, having Mark and I just being able to do what we love, is it's actually self-correcting. Over time, people who love these long, meandering things stay, and people who don't move on, or they watch the 1 minute ones, and you end up with a crew of people who actually like the way that you're exploring things, and you see less and less people go, what the fuck is he talking about? It's like, they'll just stop watching. That's okay. It's a big world. You got a lot of different... Yeah. Yeah.
From what I do skim through, it
Yeah.
seems like there's a community in its own.
Yeah.
There's people that have like healthy debates with each other on a
Yeah.
regular
Yeah,
basis.
people are, I don't know if you hear Mark, but the people go out and do debate some of these conversations within our little community. And that is really fucking cool. It really is. But I know that what we're doing is not for everyone. And that's the way we want it. Because the idea of doing something that appeals to everyone means doing something super safe. And that's not the game we're into here. That's not the game. So I really appreciate you guys. I do. And I'm pointing at cameras and stuff. If you're listening on podcasts, you too, because podcast is an area that I want to explore even more because it's really conducive to really digging and peeling. And so it's something, and Mark's really good at it and has good ideas. So it's something we want to go deeper in. I also reached out to Michael. There was somebody else, I don't want to mention it. We were talking about he and I doing a podcast together, somebody big and good. But also, I kind of sent a message to Michael Bisping saying, hey, let's do something together. And Mike and I are so different that I think I'd like to try to do something weekly or once a month or something with Mike. So tell Mike Bisping that I'll be messaging him in the next day or two, and we're going to try to set that up. But thank you for humoring me and letting me do this. It started to take the shape now that the ideas that will be fully formed in 1 minute breakdowns 4 months from now start here now and are done with you guys. So it's been very, very cool. It's a great gift, and I appreciate you greatly. So yeah, Kevin Lee versus Edson Barboza analysis. Probably talked about that fight for like 3 minutes. And so somebody, Real Audio Max says Schaub got roasted. Schaub got roasted for what? What are you talking about? Brendan's my boy. I have no idea what he's talking about. But that's it. Thank you. Thank you guys very, very much. And blackout.